Hi guys, welcome to another video. So if you've seen my previous video on my ultrabolic experience, you would actually know that I run Cynthia's Garchomp during that tournament, and I fought against 3 Dragapult players. I won 2 and I lost 1, which I consider to be a pretty good result. So today I'm going to talk about how the Cynthia's Garchomp actually is, it works pretty well against Dragapult. So I'm not going to talk about how viable Cynthia's Garchomp generally is. I think it's a decently mid to strong deck, but the problem is that with its weakness against grass, so like all of the line of Cynthia's Garchomp, whether is it the Gibble, Garbite, or the Garchomp, they are all weak against grass. So if you're running into a tournament where there are a lot of grass decks because they're trying to like counter like end Zoroark deck, then you might not have a good time because you're gonna run into a lot of natural counters. And a Tilma's Ogre, I think with like 4 to 5 energy can easily like kill Cynthia's Garchomp. Or they have like 3 energy, but they have a Meganium in the back line which multiplies their 3 energy to 6 grass energy. Then they're gonna like one-shot a Cynthia's Garchomp due to weakness, because double the damage. So yeah, so that's that. So it's not a very favorable matchup against grass, but against Dragapult though, I think it is generally quite favored. So this is actually how I won against Dragapult. Disclaimer though, I'm not a good player. I'm quite new into the game. I'm only 4 months into playing the Pokemon TCG. But during the tournament, I was facing a lot of Dragapult Dusknoir decks, and I won 2, lost 1, and I will describe how I lost that single match. I felt like that loss could have been avoided. I could have handled it better. So generally for the wins, how I would have handled it is try to get to the Garchomp line faster. So this is the deck list that I brought into the Ultra Ball League. I'm running a pretty typical list. 4-4-3 on the Cynthia's Garchomp line, 3-3 on the Roselia Roserade line, 1 Spirit Tomb, 1 Psyduck. Obviously, Psyduck is against the Dusknoirs so that they don't bomb our backline. And then Lily's Determination, Boss Orders, Buddy Babe, Hoffins 3, only 1 Premium Power Pro because the Roselia and Roserade generally does a lot of damage amplification already, and you don't really need the Premium Power Pro. Example is like, because Cynthia's Garchomp deals 260 damage, so let's use a calculator. Yep, and 260, right? And each evolved Roserade in your backline would add like 60 damage. So if you add 30, add 30 damage. So each Roserade adds 30 damage. So if you have 1 Roserade, it's 290. If you have another Roserade, you add another 30, it's already 320. So if you look at Dragapult, this is a list, Dragapult list, a typical list from a Japanese player with the special rate card. Obviously, it's not legal yet in Singapore, but you can see that Dragapult EX actually only has 320 hit points. So with our earlier calculation, with 2 Roserades, the Cynthia's Garchomp with 2 energy can actually one-shot a Dragapult EX. Of course, the downside is that the Garchomp has to discard all energy from the Pokemon itself. So if you have 2 energy, you have to discard both energy. I was running Unfair Stamp because I don't own a Neo Energy Upper and it's pretty expensive right now. I tried to buy it off a player, then he's charging me like $14 for Neo Energy Neo Upper Energy, sorry. So I didn't want to pay that price. So I run Unfair Stamp instead, which it's also pretty expensive, but I bought it way earlier for like 7 SGD, so I have it. So Cynthia's Garchomp can one-shot a Dragapult with that, and the issue is that the Dragapult cannot one-shot Cynthia's Garchomp, because Cynthia's Garchomp is like 330 hit points, and if you add like Cynthia's power weight, it adds additional 70 hit points to it, which really brings the hit points up to 400, which means Dragapult EX actually has to like hit twice on the Cynthia's Garchomp with Phantom Dive twice in 2 turns in order to fully kill Cynthia's Garchomp. And that's where the tankiness on Cynthia's Garchomp is where we win this matchup with using the Cynthia Spirit Tomb. So the 2 matches that I won, I was actually keeping Spirit Tomb in my hand. That means I don't put it onto the bench so that they don't get the time to read the description of what Cynthia's Spirit Tomb does. Maybe I wanna use another, yeah. So I can put Cynthia's Spirit, Tomb. So if you look at Cynthia's Spirit Tomb here, what it does is that it does, let me just check, still recording, yeah. So it does 10 damage for each damage counter on all of your bench Cynthia's Pokemon, which means my strategy is pretty, I mean the strategy, not say it's my strategy, but the strategy is pretty straightforward, is to use the Cynthia's Garchomp, put them into the active. So you can use like Corkscrew Drive with 100 damage. Then if you have 2 Roserade, it boosts to 160. Hit into the Dragapult. That's if you don't have 2 energy. If you only have 1 fighting energy, you can do that. But it gives the added benefit of a draw engine, because you can draw until you have 6 cards in your hand for the Cynthia's Garchomp. Let me try and bring it up again. So Cynthia's Garchomp EX. Okay. So yeah, Corkscrew Drive, the first attack takes 1 fighting energy, but you can draw cards until you have 6. So that is the main draw engine of this deck. So yeah, so you can attack with that, and then obviously the Dragapult player is going to return fire. They're going to Phantom Dive for 200 damage and 60 onto the bench. Hopefully by then you have Battle Cage set up. The Battle Cage actually won me both games during the Ultra Ball League, because I had the Battle Cage like played pretty early, I would say, like by turn 2 or sometimes even turn 3. And somehow, for both players that lost to me, they didn't have a stadium to bump it. Like I know one of the players was running Risky Ruins, and yeah, and somehow he just didn't, like he didn't have the stadium in hand. Maybe the 2 players who lost, maybe they run lesser stadiums perhaps, so they didn't have a stadium to bump it. And my Battle Cage really prevented that 60 spread damage from the Phantom Dive from going to my bench, which really sort of like won me the match. So that was that. And yeah, so going back to this, Cynthia's Garchomp will tank the 200 damage, because it already has a power weight to it, so it's 400 hit points. And then I will retreat it to the bench, and then I will put another Cynthia's Garchomp because it has free retreat. So I have another Cynthia's Garchomp evolved, bring it to the front, and probably I can do another Corkscrew Drive for like 100 plus, or if I have 2 energy there, I can do a Draconic Buster to knock out the Dragapult. Then they will evolve a second Dragapult, then do damage to Cynthia's Garchomp, the fresh Cynthia's Garchomp again, which, because they cannot one hit KO it, they'll put 200 damage. I will retreat into the bench, and now your Cynthia's Spirit Tomb, you can now play your Cynthia's Spirit Tomb on the next turn, put it onto the bench, give it 1 fighting energy, and then retreat your injured Cynthia's Garchomp into the back line. So remember earlier, we already have 1 Cynthia's Garchomp with like 200 damage or maybe more, maybe like some Dusclops damage and stuff like that. And then you have another Cynthia's Garchomp which also has like 200 damage on it. So it already has about 400 damage accumulated on your bench Cynthia's Pokemon. And you put in the Spirit Tomb, put in 1 energy, and it hits the opponent's Dragapult for a huge 400 damage. So basically it knocks out anything that the opponent has. Once you have 2 injured Cynthia's Garchomp in your backline, the Spirit Tomb will hit like a truck. Then the thing is that even if they see that play coming, and the thing is that most of these players, they because Cynthia's Garchomp is not a meta build, so a lot of them don't know what Spirit Tomb does. So if you don't play it early, right, and they don't really sort of like read the description when you finally play it in the late game. So it's like right before I retreat my nice injured Cynthia's Garchomp, the second one, I play the Spirit Tomb onto the bench and I put energy. They're still like thinking in their like mind process and thoughts like that, so they don't really go and read it. And until I swing it forward into the active and I declare like, so now I'm doing 400 plus damage to your Dragapult, and I knock it out, they'll be like, huh, what happened? And then they will read. That was like, oh sure, you can read the card. Then they will read the card, they'll be like, oh okay, so that's what it does. And by then it'll be too late, because even if they did read it then, like even if they did read the card on the turn that I played it, which is the turn right before I sent it to the active to attack, they couldn't outplay it anymore, right? Because it was already too late. I played it on the turn, they read the description, then I'll just put it into the active, give it 1 energy and immediately knock out their Dragapult EX. Because it is during my turn, there's no counterplay available from them. So they couldn't like unfair stam earlier and things like that. So the trick is to keep the Cynthia Spiritomb in your hand. Don't play it too early so that your opponents, Dragapult opponents, don't see that play coming. Yeah, because they don't know that we have a Spiritomb in our deck. So when you finally play it and yeah, you swing forward, yeah. So that's sort of like the secret weapon of the Cynthia's Garchomp deck, which is a Spiritomb. So much so that I thought of running 2 Spiritombs I mean the next time I play Cynthia's Garchomp, but I'm not too sure. I don't think we need that many of it because because the thing is that in the deck list, generally we will have 1 Night Stretcher. So I feel like the Night Stretcher is reserved for the Spiritomb. So I'll just hold the Night Stretcher for the event that if the opponent does see the Spiritomb play coming, they knock out the Spiritomb. I will just Night Stretcher it back, and then if I have a Fighting Gong, get the energy from there, or if I have an energy in hand, get it there, or I Night Stretcher it back. If I have any hand refresh like Lily's Determination, try to get energy there and so on. Because in this deck, in Cynthia's Garchomp decks, nobody plays energy switch, so you can't transfer energy from one of your other Cynthia's Pokemon over. Yeah. My only gripe with this deck is the difficulty of getting energy, because in my deck, I don't play any Healders, I play Boxer's Order, but I'm gonna change that because the Box Order, it was kind of interesting early game because it helps me to search for things like Buddy Poffins, Fighting Gongs to get energy, or Pokepets to be able to get a Garbite onto my into my bench Pokemon. So once I get a Garbite in, I can keep using Champion's Call and then keep like evolving the rest of my Gibbles into Garbites, and then I have a very good draw in a Pokemon search engine. So the box order was included because of that idea, but I find that generally as the turns went on, like after turn 2 or turn 3, after turn 3 generally, the box order generally wasn't played even if I had it in hand, because like I wanted to do damage that turn, and if I play box order, my turn ends, so I can't do damage. So I wanted to do damage in those turns, so there was no later, like when the turns go late, there was no viable turn where I could play box order. So looking at it, I think the so-called this list, which is from I think Ready Raul, another pro Pokemon TCG player, is more viable, whereby they run the new upper energy, then they run the Healders for the energy search, because the Healder can actually search for new upper. So you have more energy search in this case, and they run 2 Night Stretches. So in this case, the players don't really need to run 2 Spiritombs, because if the Spiritomb gets knocked out, you can very easily find another Night Stretcher, summon it back, and then attach another energy. Yeah, so probably gonna try out this build of this 60 of Cynthia's Garchomp instead. But generally speaking, yeah, so this is how you can use Cynthia's Garchomp and be favored or win against Dragapult. The only match that I lost against the Dragapult player, was that I knocked out his Badoo way too early. I think it was around turn 2 or maybe even turn 3. The Badoo was inactive, I was item locked. I think I didn't evolve my Cynthia's Gibble. So I didn't evolve my Garbite into a Garchomp. So I was still at Garbite, and I make the mistake of knocking out the opponent's Badoo. So immediately after knocking out his Badoo, because the player plays Unfair Stam, so I was like, he probably shouldn't have Unfair Stam that early in his hand, right? I'll just make a gamble, right? So I knock out his Badoo, it triggers his ability to play Unfair Stam. He actually doesn't have it in his hand. Then he searched for it. So he went like, I think Lily, he has Lily in his hand, so it's Lily. He went Lily, refresh his hand. Then I think he used Dracloak's Recon Directive, search through the deck. Not say search through the deck. So like draw 2 from the top deck, And he finally got Unfair Stamp. Then he played Unfair Stamp on that following turn after I knocked out the Badoo. And he drew 5, I drew 3. And from then on, I was kind of like stuck. Because that same turn that he played Unfair Stamp, he was able to evolve his one of his Dragapult into a Dragapult. He had already had enough energy on it. So he promoted it to active and he started to swing. So when he started swinging, he was able to knock out my Garbite from in the active spot, and he was able to do 60 damage to the bench because it was only like turn 3, his turn 3 or his turn 4. So I did not have Battle Cage set up as a stadium, so I couldn't prevent the spread damage, and I didn't have Cynthia's Garchomp evolve, and my Garbites kept dropping. So he took control of the match, knocking one Garbite after the other, until I think in that game I couldn't even get a Cynthia's Garchomp up, and I just lost the match very soon after. So I learned from that match. That was like I think round 3 of my games. So I learned from that defeat, and I went into round 4 versus another Dragapult player, a fellow friend of mine. And this time against him, I did not make the mistake of knocking out the Badoo early. Like, he had the same play, he had Badoo in the active, item locking me, and his bench had, like, if I'm not wrong, like 3 or 4 Draclocks. I think 4 Draclocks. He had an overkill of Draclocks, no Dragapult evolved, because somehow I think he didn't see the need to attack because I didn't hit his Badoo. He saw that I was still setting up. Probably he saw that I didn't have enough energy on my Garchomps and so on. So yeah, I just left his Draclocks for the Recon Directive. So he kept setting up, and I was just waiting now. So I was evolving. I was just waiting for him to start swinging because I already have my Garchomps. So I knew that since I already have my Garchomps, I could probably tank any Phantom Dive from him. My Roserates will probably die, so the Roserates, if he wants to Phantom Dive the Roserates, then be my guest. But I would have a return damage of my Garchomp swinging into him for Draconic Buster, possibly doing big damage or possibly KOing him, so he probably wants to hit into my Garchomps. So I was just waiting, and then when his time comes, when he got his first Dragapult, he predictably swung, like I think he bossed my Garchomp into the active. Then he swung for it. Then I was like, okay, so he swung for it. Then I just took the damage. I think it was Garchomp with or without energy. I'm not sure. I think probably without energy. So I took the damage. I retreated, and then I promoted another Garchomp to like swing into him for 1 energy, like Draconic Bust, Corkscrew Drive or something. So didn't knock out the Dragapult, but it was damaged. Then I think he promoted another Dragapult because he already have 4 Draclocks, right? So he promoted another Dragapult, knocked into my second Garchomp. I retreated the second Garchomp, and then the following turn I played the Spirit Tomb from my hand, gave it 1 energy, swung it into the active, and then I knocked out his fresh Dragapult EX. Because his second Dragapult EX has no damage, it was fresh. And then from then on, he had an injured Dragapult EX, which he was really cautious to play because he already retreated, so he burned an energy. It was already had damage on it. So I think he did take out my Spirit Tomb, probably with something, with a Dracloak attack or with... Yeah, I think maybe with a Dracloak attacking, the Dragon Headbutt does 70 damage, so he kills my Spirit Tomb or something. But by then, I remember the match dragged on into almost the full 25 minutes. We were all the way down to the last prize card, and he was, as usual, he was really looking for a way to win that last prize card. Because the Spirit Tomb is already out of the bench. I think he had no more Dragapults. Then he was just looking for a boss or something. So he needed to boss one of my weaker Pokemon because he couldn't knock out the Garchomp in the front line, so he needed to boss away one of my weaker Pokemon into the active so that he can kill that with his remaining Dragapult and win the game. But he was fishing through using Lily's Determination, using Recon Directive, I think using like Judge or something like that. I think he played Judge because he already played Unfair Stamp. I think did he? Yeah, I think he did everything that he could. He couldn't find a boss. So time was running out. Then I told him like, bro, do you have boss? So if you don't have boss, I'm gonna win the game when it comes to my turn because I have boss in hand. I could promote my Garchomp in the front line, has free retreat. I could promote my injured Garchomp from the back line, which already has energy attached. I also have additional energy in the hand for Draconic Buster if I wanted to. So yeah, so like I was just telling him to concede, and he conceded. So I managed to win the match right at when time was called, so able to register it as a win. But generally, yeah. So this is how you could be favored against Dragapult. I think Cynthia's Garchomp is a decent deck. Especially if a lot of people are running Dragapult, I think you can make the match in your favor. Key thing is make sure you buy your time. Don't knock out the Badoo's too early so that you don't trigger the unfair stamps from the opponent Dragapult player too early. You want to buy your time, get your battle cage up. Once you have a battle cage set up, if they don't have ability to knock it with one of their stadiums such as Risky Ruins or Team Rocket Watchtower, you are like halfway to winning the game. Then if you get your Psyduck down, even better, right? They can't use their Dracloaks. They can't use their Dust Noirs. Then you have another, like, you're like 75% of the way there. Then if you can able to attach your Cynthia's Power Weight to your Cynthia's Garchomps, you have the ability to tank. The only thing that you wish for is you wish that your Spirit Tomb is not priced. If your Spirit Tomb is priced, then try and do some damage, kill some of the weaker Pokemons on the Dragapult player's bench, maybe really kill the Badoo, because you really want to try and fish your Spirit Tomb out of the prizes. If you're able to have Spirit Tomb in hand, you have an energy in hand, and you have Garchomps in the front line tanking the damage, that is your win condition to one-hit KO opponent Dragapults with your Spirit Tomb. And if your Spirit Tomb is knocked out, use your Night Stretcher, summon it back from the discard pile, give it another energy, and knock out another Dragapult again, preferably if you have a Boss's Order. So that's how to win versus Dragapult if you're playing Cynthia's Garchomp, and that's my version of it. Obviously, I'm not the best player, but thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.